Hello everyone and welcome to this week's Product School webinar. Thanks for joining us today. Just in case you didn't know, Product School teaches product management, coding, data analytics, digital marketing, UX design, and product leadership courses online and our 16 campuses worldwide. On top of that, every week we offer some amazing local product management events and host online webinars, live streams, and Ask Me Anything sessions. Head over to productschool.com after this webinar to check them out. Todd Olson, before we start, number one, thank you so much for joining us today for the Product Podcast. We're really excited to hear some of your insights and wisdom throughout your career. So our first question is, can you give us a little introduction? Who are you, where have you worked, and where are you from?
Sure. Thanks, Dan, for inviting me on. It's great to be here. My name is Todd Olson, CEO, co-founder of Pendo. I've been here for a while now. We founded Pendo in 2013, so I've been here since then. Prior to that, I was the VP of product at Rally Software, which was ultimately a publicly traded SaaS project management solution, now owned, eventually acquired by Computer Associates and now Broadcom. Prior to that, I founded a company that sold to Rally. So that's how I got to Rally Software. And then, even that, if I then flip back, go first in my career, started off at age 14 programming. So I've been professionally programming and software since that age. Worked for MBNA, then Credit Card Bank, now part of Bank of America. Started my first company my senior year in college, software company. I was CTO of that company. I also was part of a company called TogetherSoft. That was another company as VP of development. And that company sold to Borland, the chief scientist of Borland for a period. So, I think largely speaking, always in a technical role, but with a bias towards product. So I can code. I actually coded here at Pendo in the early days. Always had more of a passion for this convergence of product and business and how you apply technical or technology to business problems. So that's kind of loosely what I've done.
Awesome. So that actually leads right into my next question, which is, did you ever wonder how the biggest services and brands were developed when you were growing up? Seeing that you started coding when you were 14, what were some of the products or ideas that really inspired you to want to code, or it inspired you to love technology?
Well, I think for me, it's talking about this recently with a bunch of friends. I do think there is a bit of aspect that there's you can control your own destiny, and right now I don't code. I'm basically a people manager as a CEO, right? And you can't control people, or you can try, but you find that you're gonna get really frustrated really, really fast. Whereas technology, if you see interesting, hard problems, you can generally make the computer do whatever it is you want to do. And that's a amazing feeling, this feeling of, I've got this thing, I want to do this thing, I want to solve this problem, and I just need to work really, really hard, and if I do that, I can get it done. I mean, it's magic, pure magic. And I got the hook when I was young, and those days I started with spreadsheets, solving business problems with spreadsheets. And I will say that, I use 14. I mean, there weren't any iconic technology brands at the time. I'm a little older than you are, Dan. So there wasn't, Apple wasn't hot back then. I mean, I had an Apple computer at that age, but I wouldn't say the software was inspiring. It was kind of cool. A lot of the applications were green screen applications, but there's this magic of being able to automate and solve things that's traditionally very, very manual. And I got addicted to that power very, very early on as a kid, and I still love it. I mean, it's an amazing feeling to be able to create something from nothing and it have an impact. And I think that's why I've started businesses, and that's still, the large part of what motivates me and excites me. And again, I don't code today as much as I used to, but to be able to just basically work on something until it works, and around the clock. I mean, those kind of problems consume me. It's just a great feeling.
Well, that's cool. You definitely found the one spot where you're the ultimate happiness, doing something you truly love. That's cool. So what other hobbies did you have besides coding? Was there anything else you like to do? Any sports or any other technology things you were into?
As a kid, yeah, I did lots of things. I do nothing now. I'm boring. But yeah, I mean, obviously really passionate about technology. I did play sports, although I would have never called myself a heavy athlete probably in my earlier years. Music, pretty heavily involved in a variety of musical instruments. So I've been a musician most of my life. Those are the key items. I guess I started a company at 20, so entrepreneurship, you could argue, has been a passion and a hobby area for me. But I don't know if I thought of that as I was very, very young. It's something I kind of happened into, but it's no question that kind of defines who I am now.
So how starting a company at 20? So my next question was, when did you really, start getting into the product sphere? But you were coding at 14, you were starting companies at 20, so it was when you were quite young.
Yeah, and remember, I didn't know what product management was when I was 20 or 14, right? So, but a lot of what I was doing was not just writing code, but talking with business stakeholders and kind of conceiving of solutions, right? What are your pain? So I did a lot of what I now know is product management at a much earlier age, and that's part of the excitement. That's where a lot of the invention is. The invention is, finding areas of pain and trying to apply technology to resolve those. Now, I was able to kind of do like a full stack, endeavor where I not only can conceive of the problem, but then go try it out and then go validate it. But that was a lot of the fun part. Even at 14, I was working at a bank. If someone came to me with a problem, I would take very much what's now called a lean startup approach to it. I would mock up a few prototypes. I would share it with people. We'd iterate on it. We would get real numbers against it. We would try it out, before we actually rolled it out, and that's the part that's fun, that iterative process, that exploratory development. That's what's really, really thrilling. It's and it's a very collaborative process, and I absolutely love that aspect of development as well. It's not just I go into a dark hole and come out and voila, here's technology. It's a constantly iterative process where you're sharing ideas, you're getting feedback, you're tweaking. Sometimes you scrap the whole thing and start from scratch. I love that whole process.
Awesome. So, compared to like back when you were say 14 to 20 and you were doing product management in a lean style, how would you say it compares today? Do you see any differences between early product management and how product management has evolved, or do you think it's where it should be as an industry or as a title?
Well, one, it's a lot more mature than it used to, but two, it's got a long way to go, right? I think about, software in general is actually really, really new. People have been building buildings, bridges for a really long time. People die, when people screw it up. Software is a whole different world, right? It's pretty Wild West, right? As far as there's no explicit certification for a software engineer. So certainly there isn't for a product manager, right? It's all very, very loose, in terms of a rigor. So I think as an industry, we're in the very early stages still, both in software development and product management. I would say product management's earlier than software development because I think it's just now being touted as a real job, right? So no, I think it's a lot more evolved than it used to be. There's a lot more resources, thankfully. There's a lot more content. There's podcasts now for product management. There wasn't, obviously, years ago. When I started my career, I think pragmatic marketing had this, product management course. That was the only one I knew of. Now there's product school and product tanks and all sorts of things that go, product camps on weekends. There's lots of ways to invest in your craft. Lean Startups, a book you can buy. There's Melissa Perry just released a new book on managing the build trap, I think it's what it's called. There's a lot of books, content to be better at your craft so you don't make the same mistakes that we all make when we start. And that's the fundamental thing. It's I made a ton of mistakes when I was younger. Tons. Frustrating, painful mistakes. Now you can read books and you're like, aha, I should not do that. I should do this. And you will avoid making some really elementary mistakes now if you're starting your career. And that's That is a huge leap forward than what it was when I started my career. And you know what? We're just getting started. There's more and more research. We publish, a report called State of Product Leadership. We talk about some of these items at our conference, Product Craft, a few weeks ago. Our chief product officer talked about large-scale rewrites of applications. I mean, every company has this problem once they get to a certain stage, and they're painful. And I love that we're putting out content just about, hey, these are like tips, tricks, challenges, because people will have to go through them sometimes in their career, and it's better like to learn from someone else's mistakes than make them all yourself going on. And that to me is the most exciting thing about this industry. It's both come a long way, but still has a long way to go.
Awesome. Thank you for that answer. Taking a pivot, actually. So what do you think is the biggest lesson you've learned both in life and in work from product management? From like being a product manager, how has that helped you in your home life, in your CEO life, and all of the different aspects of life?
Well, there's multiple answers to this, I guess. But I mean, I think fundamentally I do, being a product thinker, I do think in terms of force rank priorities. I'll even go into my wedding planning. So my wife and I are talking about a wedding, and we went into classic, Moscow. I'm not for sure if you remember Moscow prioritization. So it's must have, should have, could have, would have, right? Mm-hmm. So we talked about what are our must haves, and these are things that we will not ship this wedding unless these things actually occur, right? So we created a Trello board and we listed out our must haves. Those were force ranked, and it created really good conversations, because if everything was a must-have, it wouldn't have been a successful event, right? Because everything can't be a must-have, right? And look, that may be a hard thing to have with a woman who's got a dream wedding, but it's just the nature of the beast, right? You have to have constraints, and so things, so like family was a priority, really good food was a priority. We ended up having like a playlist on an iPod, right, for music. It was not in the must-have or should-have list, and that is a reflection of what was most important to us. Now, some people are huge music people, and they will they'll pick the band first, and everything else stems from that. That wasn't us, and that's okay. But I think going through the way we, whether it's anything around the house or for our kids, we try to set vision and values for our family. We try to prioritize based on those values, right? So I think, and that's at home. I mean, at work, it's the same deal. You can't do everything. So we try to run a pretty disciplined process. We have key initiatives listed out for the year. And we have explicit conversations about not only what we're going to do, but what are we not going to do. This is the one thing you learn in product management. You will say no more than you say yes. And no one likes saying no. But as a product manager, you have to get very comfortable, and you have to accept the fact that you're going to say no a lot more than you're going to say yes. But I think the key is when you're saying no, re-emphasizing what you are saying yes to. Okay, I know I'm saying no to these 5 things that you want, but here's the things we are doing, and this is why we think they're important. This is why we think these are the things that are the must-haves. Because people then get a sense for what are your values, what's most important to you. Again, sharing the why is really, really important. Going back to the wedding example, it's like, why do we have a playlist, people ask? Well, because we spend a lot more time focusing on the food and getting the right family in the room, right? That was the most important thing to us. And then when people hear, oh, I totally get it, right? When people know the why, they're much more likely to accept the outcome. So that's kind of how I think, anyway, that's my answer.
Awesome. So actually, this kind of goes into our next question as well. If there was one skill from product management that you wish everyone in your company or everyone just in business in general could embody that would make things run smoother, what do you think that was? Or what do you think that would be?
Well, it's all about empathy, right? I think having empathy for people, having empathy for situations is by far the most powerful skill you learn from product. And I think it's a very hard skill to learn. It takes being a bit vulnerable, right? Which is not easy for most people. It certainly hasn't been easy for me in my career, but sometimes you get feedback from anyone, customer, employee, and your initial reaction is to be defensive to the feedback, or be angry at the feedback, or be pissed off that the person doesn't understand, you or what's going on. And it's a very easy place to go in life. But I spend a lot of time thinking, what made this person ask this question? What made this person suggest these things? Why is this person thinking? It could be that something's going on in their business or their life that's causing this. That has nothing to do with you. Maybe, right? But instead of jumping to conclusions, instead of jumping in and suggesting your solution to this person's question or problem, like taking a step back, being a little slower, being more inquisitive, and trying to get to the root cause, I think is a thing that it's a constant work. I mean, we all have to, we all have these human emotions that make us want to jump to these things. But that to me is what I focus the most on. I think it's very challenging, but it serves you well in business if you can have a lot more empathy. And when I talk to our sales team and we're talking about a customer situation, salesperson will say this person's going really slow. Like, well, do you ever think that something's going on in their life, their business, that's causing to be slow? In one case, we found out that a customer was going through brain cancer. It's like, whoa. This person's going through brain cancer, like buying our software. I don't want it to be in the top 5 things they're stressed about, right? Like, so we're gonna step away from this, and we're gonna not talk to this person. We're gonna, frankly, send them some flowers, and we're gonna let them get their life on. And if and when, be hopeful that they come out of this in a better place and everything's good. But like let's not be pressing, because honestly, life's too short. And I think that's been part of our values as a business day one. Like, I don't want to be creating stress, and we exist to make people's lives and people's businesses better. If we're making them worse, like, no, it's not worth it to me, frankly. I don't need that business. So I think that's kind of how we've approached it. And I think it's such a powerful skill and very, very difficult.
Definitely agree with you. Empathy is key. So do you still think it's viable for tech teams, even companies, to aim? This is a big switch here. Do you think it's still viable for tech teams to aim for the largest possible market? Or do you think it's more important to go towards niches and smaller markets that you can penetrate easily and get good returns?
It depends on what you want to create. I mean, I think if you have aspirations to create a super huge company, and that's what you want, that's what you're looking for, you want to, so quote unquote, change the world, then yeah, you're going to have to attack a large market, right? And I think there's absolutely can. I mean, look at Zoom, the best example recently, where and Slack, both, one's public, and I think Slack's going public. I mean, they attacked massive markets and arguably won in both cases. Like, you would think, no one would sit here and say, wow, I'm going to create a video conferencing startup when there's WebEx, GoToMeeting, Join, all these things, and think it's going to win. And it did, right? So kudos to them, right? Just really good product execution. So yeah, I think it actually 100% capable of attacking big markets. I think if you have an interesting point of view, if you have an interesting position, I think you can be successful. But I also think it's really viable to attack niches, and there's lots of interesting niches out there. And sometimes the two are intertwined. Sometimes you're attacking a niche and you see then a bigger opportunity come out of it. That's okay as well. I think you do, when you start something from scratch, you have to attack something. You have to focus. I do think it's very hard as like a 5-person company, 10-person company, say, I'm going to boil that massive ocean. I think staying focused there's a problem, and we have a unique solution to that problem that's never been seen before. And go solve it, and go solve it well. And if you do that in a way that's a step function, it's way better than previous solutions, you're going to start getting some traction. And that's kind of how we started Pendo. It's like, I saw a problem. It's like, these other solutions, they're tough. We're going to have to create a leap in order to be successful here. And I like to think that we created a leap with the early product, and now it's a different game as we get to the scale. But that's kind of how I think you have to start. Here's something that's super painful. Now, granted, more people that have that pain, the bigger the market, the bigger the opportunity. But I think starting with that pain and growing is the way to do it. So,
awesome, thank you. So, do you think creativity is still really important, like for leading a company like Pendo, or just for your company in general or in your past? How important was creativity throughout the process?
Huge part. I mean, I constantly push my management team, leadership, everyone here at Pendo to what's a creative solution. Now, I also think it's important and wise to be, what are we going to be creative about? You know, like we have a payroll provider, and everyone needs to get paid. Not sure it's the area where we need to get creative. You know, so some things, like some business model things, some things that are core, it's like sometimes I'll say, what is everyone else doing, and why can't we just copy them? Because I don't think this needs to be part of our special sauce. You know, like sales process and certain things. Some say, why can't we just copy what the best companies are doing and have that as our process? Like, some of these things aren't magic, right? And if they're not part of our values, if they're not part of our mission, do we need to be that creative about it? Probably not, right? And I think that's another thing I've taken away from business. And it comes down to product management. This is like, let's force rank our creative juices and say, what are we going to expend our creative minds on? Are we going to expend them on, like, how to have cooler financial models? Probably not. I don't want to reinvent Gap. I don't want to reinvent like ARR metrics. We were reporting like 4 different net retention numbers. I don't need to get creative here. Let's just take what the best companies are doing and apply them and use those as our numbers. Like financial reporting numbers, like no reason. Like that's not a core value for Pendo. Now, if you're at like a company that specializes in financial metrics and AR, maybe you do need to get creative there. Maybe that is your special sauce, right? There you need to invent. I think one of the best examples there is that, the Omniture, or maybe it was Josh James, early invented this thing, this metric for judging the growth rate of SaaS businesses. It's gonna blank. It's not magic number. It's called magic number. Your SaaS magic number. That's what he created. Now, that was core to them because they were trying to be on the cutting edge of measuring SaaS businesses at the time. So they invented this sales efficiency metric called magic number. That we just use it now. We're not trying to invent new ones. And I think that's kind of the difference. Like, be creative with things that are important to your business and that advance your mission and vision. Don't be creative on things that don't. So.
Awesome. So on being more creative, would you say, do you ever see like AI or machine learning coming into play in Pendo? Do you ever imagine the different ways that this technology could be used, maybe now or in the future?
I'm super excited about this technology set. And, I'll say, so we, by the technical definition of AI and machine learning, we don't technically deliver any software in this area right now. We do have a data scientist on team who applies machine learning techniques to our data, looking for trends, and we've done some papers on it. We did a paper on, actually, that wasn't even machine learning. That was just statistical modeling. So one, I think, this is maybe my background as a computer scientist, some things do bother me when people sometimes conflate just good statistics with machine learning. You won't see Pendo do that. I'm not going to call something machine learning just for the buzz in the press when it's explicitly not machine learning. So that's why we haven't made any announcements around it. That's why we don't talk about it a lot. Our marketing team probably wants us to talk about it, but I've explicitly told them that I refuse to do it unless it is literally the textbook definition of what these things mean. We do have some stealth labs projects using those techniques, but until they're work and they validate it, I'm not going to release them yet. So I think it is interesting technology set. I think a lot of people claim something's AI and machine learning when it's not, and it's kind of a pet peeve of mine. You will not see Pendo do that, but we are experimenting with it, and when it's ready for prime time and it actually adds value and insights, sure, I think we'll lever it. You see the power of it. But a lot of it comes down to training models, and one of the challenges we see is not all products are the same. If I'm training a model for a support application and we have a healthcare application, I don't want to give you bad insights. Oh, Pendo told me that this thing's likely to do this. It's like, well, it's until it's right and it's good. I think you got to be really, really careful about telling people answers or suggesting things. So we want to make sure it's we don't create work for people when when it's the wrong work, right? So I'm very sensitive to that.
Interesting. Cool. So, can you describe a feeling as a PM or a CEO, when you've done something right, implemented a feature or launched a product that just really drove users in, that just went great, and how did that feel to you?
The answer is yes, of course. I've been blessed and fortunate with the fact that I've shipped a few things that have worked out, but it's never like to me, it's never the big bang release. That's the thing that is most exciting. It's the little wins are the ones that the lighters, the ones that really, really make me happy, and proud as a team. I'm trying to think of good examples, but even just last week, maybe 2 weeks ago, we were looking at, published this new metric, stickiness metrics, kind of a ratio of daily active use to monthly active use. And I was looking at the charts, and we were including weekends in the charts, and nothing wrong with that. The chart was technically accurate, but you can see a clear trend, at least for our product. Now, granted, we're not a B2C product; people use heavily on the weekends. You see, weekday use, and you see a dip, and then it comes right back up, and then dip, and then by taking all those data points and taking the average across it, the mean, the weekends brought the overall mean down by about 10 points, right? So it's like, that's interesting, right? So, we talked about as a team, we worked with customers, and we just removed weekends, and we shipped it a few weeks ago, and really great response from customers. And it's a little thing, but at least in our charts, even internally, the numbers went up again 5-10 points. So it's more accurate, it's more insightful, it's better looking. It feels good. It's like those little wins, and the fact that we shipped something, got feedback, looked at it, and then followed up with that. I call them like fast follow work. Those are the things that I'm most proud of. It's not just declaring done when you first ship something. It's talking to customers, talking to users. Very often, I think we've over MVP'd things. We drop an MVP out in the market, we celebrate, have our beer, move on to the next thing. We don't come back to that first thing and actually really finish it. I talked to product managers, says that every single feature we have in our product, 78% done. How does that feel to a customer or user, right? So the fact that we go back and finish things and polish them, and those are the examples that make me most proud as a product leader. Not leaving things half done. And not to say that our entire product is perfect that way, but we've got a few areas that have been very, very proud. And we also just released a new visual design studio for the product, and admittedly, that's been a harder release for us. Huge batch, year of work. It is a new evolutionary UI, but we did a rewrite of a product that's only 5 years old. That took a lot of courage and guts. Very often people wait, till products are 10 or 15 years before they rewrite UIs. We did it 5. Now, I think this is mostly important that we're a product-led business, and we're serving product managers, and they expect us to be great here. But like anytime you write something, the challenge is that the minimum threshold, that MVP threshold, is to be parity with the prior version. So it's a lot of features. You can't release early, and when you can't release early, you can't get feedback, you can't be iterative. It sucks. It's very difficult. But we still did this work. And again, it takes a lot of courage. And I'm proud that we as a team made the hard choice, made the difficult investment, incurring the pain of a large batch and a large rewrite. And I think we're getting smarter as it. I think ultimately the customer experience is going to be a lot better. But I think you get proud of the things that are tough decisions, not easy decisions. And when you make a tough decision, and you know what? I think your question, and I'm sure I deviated from it a bit, was like when you see positive customer responses. We haven't seen a ton of positive customer response in this, and I'm still proud of the team. We've seen enough. Some customers see the vision, but when you release something and it's not meeting customer expectations, but we're still persevering and responding fast, like that's what makes you really proud. It's the grittiness of the team, it's the focus. Those are the things you're going to look back in your career and like, wow, those are tough. Those are good, but proud of the team's execution. So.
Yeah, that's great. You push through, you keep learning, you persevere, and then something great gets built. That's really cool. So seeing that you've been both a PM and a CEO, there's a huge misconception. A lot of people think a product manager is a mini CEO. What do you think about this? Have you ever heard of the mini CEO comparison for a PM?
I have. You know, I think it was popular. I think Ben Horowitz wrote about it in Good PM, Bad PM, in his kind of seminal post. Now part of, I think it's in The Hard Thing About Hard Things. I'm pretty sure it's a chapter in that book as well. You know, no, it's not doing as a service as an industry to call PMs mini CEOs. And I get why it was written that way, and a lot of it is about ownership, but I think it creates the wrong dynamics on teams, right? I think what you really want is more of a servant leader approach to product management, where the product manager is serving the team. Now, granted, some CEOs are servant leader style CEOs and serve the company, so I think that's all right. But a lot of people don't typically associate CEOs with that exact behavior. So I think that's part of the challenge. I think the other challenge is when you have a huge product and you have 30 PMs on it, you have 30 CEOs. And then what are you, like the CEO of this feature or this subsystem or this area? And then what kind of CEOs are clashing? I mean, as a CEO, I don't like clash with all of my peer CEOs in the region because we all share this thing. So like when you have shared ownership of a product, it creates lots of confusion, right? And it needs to be far more collaborative than what the CEO metaphor connotes. So yeah, no, I don't think it's awesome. And I think it was, you know, in the olden days when you're maybe a PM of a hardware part or a single product, maybe it made sense. But in these SaaS applications, these platforms that are comprised of thousands of features, and there's lots of PMs and little chunks of it, and I think it's impossible to have that as your example. So no, I don't think it serves it well. And no, revenue and things like that. I mean, often that old PM CEO is when you have like existing channels like resellers, and you can just put a product in the reseller channel, and it was kind of magic. Like now, like there's sales enablement and education, and no, I think certainly in the software sense, I think it's a bad metaphor.
Interesting. I really like the collaborative approach. It's definitely, product management does make so much more sense. You need to collaborate. You can't just push, and so that's really cool. Moving on to our next question. So with Pendo and product managers, what is the importance of data for product managers, and how can Pendo help product managers understand this data?
Well, obviously that was a good setup, right? So, but yeah, I think data is all about informing good product management. What you don't want to do is make decisions and make these tough prioritization decisions with limited data. And that's one of the biggest challenges that product managers have. It's synthesizing disparate sets of data and yielding a vision codified by a force-ranked prioritized list. That's essentially what you're doing. You're taking in all this data and you're synthesizing it to this list. And typically, the better data you have, the better synthesis you're going to have, and the better prioritization you have. And it's very easy to be undisciplined and just build kind of what you want, or just build what you hear about in the hallways. But it's very easy to have a lot of bias in that behavior if you don't have a rigorous set of quantitative, qualitative data, right? And I do think that both types of data are really, really important. You want quantitative data, facts. You want qualitative data, people's opinions and feelings. That comes back to the empathy thing. You know, if people feel something is broken, well, it could be broken, right? There's something to dive into, and you want to inform your decision making. Now, I'll also say that data shouldn't be telling you what to do. You shouldn't be bringing a bunch of data as any tool, frankly, and saying, oh, this thing says number 1 should be built. That's bad product management. You want to take that and you want to, again, synthesize it with your other data apply it to your own knowledge of your business and mission and vision and the team, and then use that to yield what should be built. So, yeah. And then the question is, how can Pendo help? I mean, part of our vision is to empower product managers with better data. So we started that with really good usage data, and what we took as a stance is I think our leap, or at least what I think the leap was trying to get you good quantitative data without relying on a lot of developer work. Because what I found in my career is when I was trying to get it, I had to instrument my product, and what happens is you just don't do it that well. You put it off, you delay it, and by delaying it, you end up with incomplete data. And frankly, incomplete data is worse than having no data at all. So you want to have really good data. So we invented a solution that you drop into your product, and it always has solid, up-to-date quantitative data. Now we've then married it with qualitative data like NPS data, text-based polls, 1 through 5 scales, how people feel. That gives you another lens into what's going on in your product. And then most recently with an acquisition that we just made out of the UK, we're just bringing in new data on what people want. It's another form of qualitative data, but it also informs what's going on. So if you look at these different data sets, I'd like to think we, in a single product, we probably have the most diverse, actually I'm pretty confident we have the most diverse and broad part of data for product managers. And a lot of it's done in a very automated way, not relying a lot of work on the product manager. And I think that's been, our, take on the industry and our contribution, but empowering people with better data to make good decisions.
Awesome. So your inspiration for coming up with this solution, you were looking for data. You think PMs need to find more data, more centralized, more easily. Where did you find this inspiration? Was it in a previous role, or was it just you had the idea come to you in a light bulb moment, or how did this come to be?
No, I lived this pain. Yeah, it came to me in a prior role. I was leading a team of, a product team at a SaaS business, and we had actually instrumentation. We had a development team instrument things, but I found it increasingly difficult to get good answers out of it. I actually hired a data scientist, and a couple months after he started, he's like, yeah, Todd, I don't have a consistent enough data set to give you the answers you want into what people are doing, or are people using this or not, or everything from pricing and packaging discussions to, again, prioritization discussions. So it was painful. And then, I'd say, oh, well, what would it take to get it? Oh, we're going to take 3 engineers and we're going to have to spend a couple months. Oh, well, I want those engineers to build features for customers. I don't want them, spending their time doing internal data. So absolutely, all of the entire inspiration for Pendo is through pain felt at prior life. And so I started this thing because I wanted to solve that pain, not just for me, but for other people like me.
Cool. So talking more about Pendo and what it can do for product managers, how can PMs really measure the impact of their products with Pendo? What user metrics do you think are most important or most useful that Pendo really pulls out and gives these insights on?
Well, it's contextual, right? So it's all dependent on your product. But I think first off, you have to know in advance what your goals are for your product. So we do have an area in the product called goals, where you're supposed to sit. You can sit back and say, we want product managers or we want our customers, to use this feature or that feature or these sets of features, or an aggregate this much usage. So he says some products are products that you want to be daily active use. Some are more weekly active use, some are more monthly active use, and that's okay. The fact that someone doesn't use your product, give an example. We work with real estate companies where some of their usage for tenants is only coming in once a month to pay their bill, right? And they shouldn't be coming in every month. But then some of the other users, some of the other roles are accountants, which come in every single day. So you need to segment your user base and make sure you understand the goals for 2 different segments and make sure you're getting out of it. Because if accountants are coming in every day and are struggling, that's probably really bad for your product. And if tenants are coming in and can't pay a bill, that's probably really bad for your product, right? So looking at pass, flow, these are all things that we've got built in that can help analyze, understand our people. For example, our tenants, if the goal is for a tenant to come in and be able to pay their bill fast, You can measure a funnel against that. You can look at paths against tenants. You can actually segment your user base and then look at just that segment and understand what's going on. The second thing is we do have, again, qualitative insights built in. So things like Net Promoter Score are built in, or even simple things like you can implement CSAT through our product. If people are really unhappy and not recommending you, you may want to look at that, right? That could lead to churn. That could lead to dissatisfaction. So, I think we've done a lot of work with Net Promoter Score, and one of the interesting, I think, innovations that we've done, and this is where you asked about creativity. This is a fun story back in the early days. One of my challenges with Net Promoter Score was like some person could give me a 2, really low score, and never be in the product. But some person could give me a 2 and be in the product every single day. Like, to me, it's different actionability, right? If you're in every day and you're really, really frustrated, well, the first question is, if you're that unhappy, why do you come to my product every single day? But then the second question is, wow, that stinks. I should probably talk to you and figure out how to make this less painful, right? So I actually drew on a napkin, this classic entrepreneurial thing, a 2x2 matrix, and we plotted. I said, it'd be cool to have NPS on this axis and usage on the other, and just gave it to a product manager. And sure enough, we have that chart now in the product, and it segments and it allows you to create zones of activity where you have these high usage detractors, high usage promoters. High usage promoters, those are your best people. They come in every day and love you. Mm-hmm. Well, there's a lot of nuggets in that group you should be talking with. And you also have low usage promoters. So these people that, okay, well, I'm glad that you like me, but why don't you come more often? So it's let's talk to these people. So anyway, you have these interesting zones. Now that was a moment where we could invent something because we had this diversity and breadth of data in our platform. And so this is just some of the things. That's a snapshot, but that's kind of how I think through that problem.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's really cool. Having those zones, it'd be sweet if you just have like 10 minutes, you pop in, you say, hey, how are you doing? And what do you like about it today? That's really cool. Okay, so how is, over the time, how has Pendo's portfolio evolved? I know you guys have several products that I will ask you a bit more about. You most recently launched Pendo Via. Can you tell us a bit more about this?
Yeah, Via is really, really exciting. So all of our work up in the day has been helping people who make software make it better. So it's been empowering the product managers on that. Via actually is targeting a different persona. It's targeting the people that buy the software. So what happens is in enterprise software, let's say you're buying a large package application, you're going to take that, but then you're going to customize it. You're going to add, special fields, you're going to add special workflows, something can be mandatory, and your instance actually is going to look potentially very different than an out-of-box instance. And what you're going to find is as you roll it out, your stakeholders their experience isn't just predicated on the software itself, it's predicated on your implementation of that software. So Via is focused on the implementation. It helps you educate and train people. It helps you enforce better compliance around it. It helps you measure overall usage and adoption. We're actually, part of our roadmap is to have more qualitative feedback like polls. So if someone's unhappy with an implementation, like, whoa, I need an extra field for this, you can survey your user base in-app. So it's targeting a different persona, but it's all about, are you getting your ROI out of the software you're buying? And how do you help do that? So it's actually really, 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 really cool. So, and by empowering the buyers of software with the same information as the makers of software, you're evening the playing field between the two, because now you know what you're actually using just as much as the people who make it. Mm-hmm. And that's pretty compelling if you think about it. So I think it's going to create more discipline from the makers, because their buyers are going to know, hey, we don't use this thing. We don't, right? Think about that, how cool that is. So, but it's going to make everyone better. So I think that's part of the excitement for me.
It's cool. I really love this mission of really just trying to improve the product management industry, and you improve the products that come out of it. It's really exciting. So what about Vox? How does this work with Via and with the overall platform? So
Vox is a free product that we released focusing purely on Net Promoter Score. Mm-hmm. So it's free product, use it, you get a baseline of Net Promoter Score. Yeah, and you can start with Vox, the free product, and then upgrade to any of the other products as well.
Now, specifically, I think this was your latest acquisition in the last couple years here. You have Receptive, which is based out of the UK, if I'm not mistaken.
100%. So we just acquired a company called Receptive, based out of the UK, and I alluded to a little bit earlier. Receptive allows you to manage feature requests at scale, customer feedback. So if people are looking for certain features, you can attribute it to the customers. You can ultimately attribute to revenue. It helps give you really great insights to know what people want. Now, what's also powerful is that it facilitates two-way communication. So, for example, a big piece of feedback is actually making sure the customer or end user, or even internal stakeholder, is heard. So you can automate some of the communication around, hey, we got your feedback, this is planned or this is not planned, or you can get a sense for where your requests are in terms of being built. And we think this two-way communication is just as important as the actual managing of their feedback itself.
Oh, that's really cool to make sure that your customers are heard. So how do these products overall, how do they work with each other? From my understanding, there's the Pendo Cloud, which is your overall Pendo product. And then you can have the more business enterprise, or you can have only feature requests, or how could I set up a Pendo platform in my company?
Absolutely. So yeah, Pendo, we call it the product cloud. You can start with any of the pieces I mentioned, and you can add on the others, right? So if you want to start, free with NPS, you can do that, and then upgrade into the full suite. We have, an in-app messaging component of our product where you can communicate with users. You can buy that a la carte, or we have things like our core usage analytics, which you can buy a la carte. You have Receptive that you can do it. Now, when you buy all of it together, it is an integrated experience. For example, let's say I'm looking at a customer or a user. I can see what they're doing, using, what they're thinking or feeling with Net Promoter Score, what they want with Receptive. And the vision is to by giving you a 360-degree view of your product, you can make better decisions. You can create better customer experiences, better product experiences, and by integrating it all together, it creates kind of a very unique view and data to know what's going on.
Interesting. I think that's so cool. You could use one platform to see where your zones are, and then take that and see what kind of requests this zone is requesting for. That's really interesting. So recently you reported a 112 increase in bookings. Can you tell us more about this, what it means and what it represents for Pendo as a company going forward?
Look, growth is good, right? So, I mean, I think as long as we continue to grow, I think one, it's a measure of our industry and our category. I think it's a measure of product management as a whole. Product management's growing, so that means the market around product management's growing. So I think it's all good, right? I mean, we're excited to be a leader in this market and category, and as long as we continue to grow, I think you'll continue to see good things.
Do you have any plans to keep the momentum going without sharing too many secrets? Do you have any big things coming up, or how do you keep it going?
Yeah, I mean, look, we're investing in growth, so that's how we're measured as a business, and growth is very, very important. We've raised capital to grow, so we have the capital to invest in the business. But yes, I think you'll continue to see hopefully similar performance from the company.
Cool. So moving on to your team, how big is your current team at Pendo, and how do you keep them motivated? Are you really involved down on the lower levels, or how do you keep your team motivated?
We're at 330 people, and I think there's motivation. It's a challenging thing, but I think one, it starts with values. You have to have good values. So things like transparency, everyone knows what's going on. That's a big way that we keep people motivated. And serving our customers. I think everyone here believes in the mission and vision of the business and serving customers, and I think that's one of the key ways that we motivate folks.
Cool. So were you ever in charge of hiring your team? You have to run. Are you on a time?
Run, unfortunately.
I'm sorry.
Oh, shoot. Okay, no worries. If you guys have to run, that's perfectly fine.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Do you feel like you got what you needed, or?
Oh yeah, definitely, definitely.
Okay.
If you guys feel good with your representation of Pendo, then yeah, for sure. I have a couple more questions about Pendo, but maybe I could send them over and you guys could type something out or whatever works.
This is an internal meeting. I thought it was a town hall, so.
You have two things. I don't know.
When's my town hall? Is it 11?
It's at 11.
Okay.
But you have two things on your calendar. I don't know what.
Sorry to go over, guys.
Okay.
We'll keep going. I'm okay with the next thing. So yeah, let's keep going. Sorry. Let's go back to that question. What have you ever hired your team? I think was the question.
Yeah. So hiring team members, what is it? What do you look for in team members? Who do you want on your team? What are those telltale signs that make you say this is someone that should be on our team?
Yeah. So I still interview nearly every employee at Pendo. So I do a lot of interviewing, and I think the key is I always look for someone who wants to be here and believes in the mission and vision. So in values, when I come into an interview and someone can recite the values before they even work here, they can talk about why they care about product management or software or making software better. That is something that I look for significantly. I mean, and someone that understands what we're about at Pendo. I mean, as I said earlier, we're a growth-focused company. Growth isn't for everyone. I mean, it's intense here. It's not. It's a fast-paced environment. There's a lot of change. You have to be able to accept and understand there's going to be change. Those are the key things we look for.
Awesome. So, can you tell us more about how you reached 1, 10, and 1,000 users?
Yeah. Well, I think. One, I'll never forget, we had this woman, Amy, who was working with us out in California. And this is a great story because we're using our own products to really get those one users. But, we measure people doing the product. And we can watch basically what Amy did every single day, how much time she was spending in it, what features she was using. And honestly, we just, really maniacally focused on Amy and making sure she got what she wanted out of it. And one of the funniest stories about this is that early on, we saw her using this feature in the product that we didn't think should be used a lot. It was like adding some column to some report, and we're like, holy crap, she's added like 100, like 100 a day. I think it was like the numbers were staggering, and we're like, that's a really painful for UI for that. Like that was not built to be doing this. And so we dispatched a product manager, get on the phone with Amy, and we're like, can you show us this? Like, why are you doing this? Like, we didn't anticipate this behavior. And she's like, oh, I'm trying to get this data out. We're like, oh, okay. We could probably do this in a very different way. It's a lot easier than that. So what we did was we actually took that feature away, removed the most active feature she used in the product, and replaced it with a better report that gave her exactly what she wanted, and really saved her time and increased her adoption. And so that's really the coolest stories, because the way we made her happier was by removing the most used things she used and replacing with something better.
Awesome.
That's 1. Now 10 was, I think each one of those first 10 was probably some heavy lifting story. I'll never forget, one of the other early stories was, we were always looking at building interactive polls to bring in qualitative data, but it was later on our list, and we had a customer that really wanted it. And we're like, look, if you pull up polls, we'll buy. And this is a scenario where I think a lot of product managers have, well, like that seems like bad product management, but I think it's very good product management. If there's something on my roadmap that I was going to build anyway, I had it later, and if someone's willing to pay to pull it up, why wouldn't I do that? And I think this is the other, you asked a while back about the key lesson. Don't get emotionally attached to roadmaps. Frankly, don't get emotionally attached to anything, maybe other than your family, right? But if there's better feedback out there, better market feedback, use the market feedback. Don't take it personally. My prioritization was wrong. Customer corrected it. I'm okay with that. But that's how we got those first 10, those first 100 users, is not treating our roadmap like someone chiseled it in stone and like saying like, no, we were flexible, we were agile, we were adapting, people were using it. I mean, I think that's how we got those early customers. Now, take it to those, 1,000 users a day, a lot of that growth is, it is different, right? You are trying to then look for more signals. You are looking for, and I think there isn't no one feature then that gets you to 1,000. It's just continuing to listen, continue to be focused on your users, continue to like unblock pain. No magic then. Like the first two stories were like hand-to-hand combat. Later it's not hand-to-hand combat when you have thousands of things, right? Like it is definitely smoother, more sitting back, things like that.
That's great. Congratulations. So to finish this up, well, can you tell us a bit about Product Craft? I think you guys had your conference just last week, right? When's the next one? What is it? What are some of the speakers you guys have coming?
Yeah, so Product Craft, first off, is our product management brand or content brand for product managers. It's go to productcraft.com. There's lots of amazing content. There's polling on it. That's just free for everyone. You can go, you can get content from it. We over half the content is from outside of Pendo's walls. So we do write a bit of it ourselves, but plenty of it comes from outside. We have lots of amazing content about all sorts of product management topics. But the Product Craft conference was our first conference in this brand that happened a few weeks ago in San Francisco. And it had amazing speakers from everyone from Airbnb to Stripe to just an amazing set. Box was there, Full Story. So it's great speakers. We had some speakers from Pendo as well, and we plan on making an annual event. So it'll be next year again, probably in May. And it's a day-long event where it's an opportunity to share more about the craft. No real vendor talks. It's all again craft-based talks about everything from hiring to we had one on inclusion product management. That was a really well-regarded speech. So it's a variety of topics, but it's just about key trends we're seeing in product management.
Sounds interesting. Thank you for sharing that with us. So yeah, I think that about wraps it up for this interview. Thank you so much for joining and for answering these questions.
My pleasure, Dan. It was my pleasure. So enjoy the interview.
Great. It was a pleasure working with you as well.